Welcome back, legends, to another episode of Chasing Better with Knoxy, stories of better, and with our amazing clients, friends, family, and all that sort of stuff. We have had a bit of a hiatus, had a lot going on recently, but awesome to get back on the airwaves, the video waves, and back on the internet and sharing our stories of better with all of you out there. Today I have an awesome guest, Miss Juliette Watts. She's been training with us for about 3 months now. Yep. And yeah, she's had some great wins, not only from a training side of things, but also from the food and nutrition side of things of training, and also some mindset stuff as well that we'll go into as well. So yeah, I suppose Juliette, to kick it off, like, how's your day been?
Oh, all right.
Good,
Not
good.
Too bad.
Yeah. And what do you do with yourself?
So I'm a teacher, and I teach ed support in high school, but early childhood trained. So used to teaching little kids, but now I've ended up teaching big kids. Yeah,
sweet. No, that's cool. And yeah, I suppose probably a big stress of that, we obviously train a lot of teachers here, as you can imagine, and like they're constantly under pressure from not only the work side of things, but also the relationships they've got to have with the kids and stuff like that. Working in ed support, that'd be pretty full on, right?
Oh yeah, very full on. Smaller classes, but big behaviours, big milestones, everything's just that little bit trickier.
Yeah, no dramas.
Fun, so much fun.
Yeah, I suppose it's probably the rewarding side of things as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like
absolutely.
Probably like when you can get a breakthrough with one of the kids, that's probably the best part of the job, yeah?
Totally.
Yeah, no, awesome. So yeah, very similar to my job, obviously being like we're both educators essentially. But yeah, I suppose rewind the tape and kind of go back to sort of day one, obviously when you came in for your first consult. I think obviously your sister had been here for a week or so by that stage.
Oh, probably a couple months.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So Jules' sister had been training with us. Lauren, shout out there. I'm sure she'll be watching this at some stage. And yeah, she'd been seeing some great results already with her training. She'd never been in the gym before, which is great. And Jules, let's take it back to where were you currently at before you came and joined us?
So I've trained pretty consistently for quite a few years, maybe 3 or 4 years, but like different apps, different food things, like just chopping and changing all the time. I never had something that was really consistent. And about a year, 18 months before starting here, I had found this app, and it seemed like I was getting my workouts right, but my nutrition was just, I've never quite nailed the nutrition. Everything else seemed to be okay, but it was the one thing where I was like, I would just love a bit of guidance with knowing what to eat, what not to eat, like the perfect balance, and seeing what Lauren was coming back with you telling me all these things that you'd mentioned. I was just thinking like, oh, that'd just be great to have that guidance.
Yeah, sweet. And I suppose, like, was there any fear of joining a gym, because you were training at another facility that was, you know, you could go in whenever you wanted, and you were just training by yourself, yeah?
Yep.
So was there any fear to coming in and doing group sessions? Like, where was the head at with that?
Well, years ago I had done classes, and but yeah, pretty much just coming in, I don't know, I felt okay about it, and having my sister made a huge difference. I would have never jumped in and wanted to do it myself if I didn't think I'd have someone to kind of also encourage me to do it. So,
running mate.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it kind of was nice to have a bit of a thing that we could work on together as well. And she was definitely that push for me. So that made me feel a lot more comfortable. But I was definitely nervous before because I had no idea what to expect. No idea.
So for people out there that have never been in a gym before or may have trained, coming into a new environment, how did you personally deal with that? I mean, obviously I try and be as welcoming as possible. That's my job. But like, from a personal point of view, like, was there anything going through your head that you kind of had to stop thinking about, or tell yourself, no, you don't need to worry about that, or like, where were you at with that?
Oh, I think comparing myself was definitely something I've always struggled with. But then coming into here, I immediately was thinking, oh, I feel like I don't want to be judged, and you know, I hope I look a certain way. I hope my food is okay, and that was kind of my just self-conscious. But coming in, seeing that you've pretty much got every type of person that walks in the store and that you help, and I think it's just such a great environment, really, and I was pretty comfortable straight away, honestly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
And just talking about it as well, like getting into it, I didn't know what to expect, but after the first couple sessions, it was really exciting, and I'd go back to work and chat to my colleagues, and it was just excitement. It turned from nervousness to excitement really quickly.
Yeah, sweet. Awesome. So I suppose coming on from that, like the mental health side of things, of like, we have a lot of clients that come here purely just to have 45 minutes to themselves.
Yeah.
Now, yes, they are in a class environment, which for some people they're like, how does that work? But it's quite literally 45 minutes, especially the mums, dads, all that sort of stuff, that have got kids that are literally yanking on them 24/7 going, I need this, I need this.
Yeah.
They find a bit of peace, I think, is probably a good word for it, and solitude in the fact that they can just come here, train, get the work done, and then after time of just showing up, they're like, oh, the results are coming.
Yeah.
Right. So I suppose for yourself, like, do you find you've taken that kind of mental edge out into the world now, so that it carries on as you leave the gym now? Yeah.
It was funny, I was just talking to a colleague about this today, and I just said, I can't believe that I went into it wanting to fix my nutrition, but have actually come already so far in my mental health, because having goals outside of work, like, it is my first year teaching and my first teaching job, and mentally that it's a lot starting a new job, but then also the responsibility of starting a new teaching job where you're responsible for a whole heap of kids. Like, I didn't realize how much it was affecting my mental health, but I found having a goal outside of work, like being able to come here and being able to see progress in how much I'm lifting and just the weight that I can now do, even in a few months, has just been amazing. And I look forward to coming here because I know that I can it's a separation from life, just like parents and their kids and all of that. And you can't think about anything else. You've got to focus on what you're doing. And it's made such a world of difference to just mental health and how I feel, and getting through the day and knowing I've got something to look forward to. It's just been amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that's, you can't put it any better than that. I mean, we all know what we need to do to be better. You know, we talk about it all the time: training, nutrition, have a better mindset, be nice to others, all that sort of stuff. But do you find as a younger client, as a younger person, probably under the age of 30, like, do you find that it's difficult to stick to this sort of stuff of being better and thinking good thoughts for a change? Because I know social media can be one of the worst downfalls of society at the best of times. Do you find, especially with your role being a teacher, because you've got negativity from kids, I can imagine most days, parents might get a bit grumpy every now and then when they come and chat to you. It's like, how do you find it's difficult to kind of switch off from that, or is it?
It has been in the past, and I'm absolutely a crier, and some days I do have a bit of a cry, and you just get home and you feel like you've got the world, the weight of the world on your shoulders, and everything that you mentioned pretty much happens all in, a couple hours here and there in the day, and it just feels so heavy. Honestly. But honestly, it's just been, it's been awesome.
Do you also find, being with the younger crew, like, do you find that it's tough to be the healthy one, or do all of your mates train? Like, what do you think is the general consensus around your year? Because I mean, I know there's a lot of people in Australia that do train, for example, let alone other countries. But like, do you find that you stick out a bit now that you are setting goals that aren't business related or work related? They're health related. Like, it's like, I want to be able to do a chin up, or I want to be able to just have good food 6-7 days a week instead of once. Like, does that make you feel?
I definitely have a great support network around me. I don't have anybody that is saying, oh, what are you doing that for? Or, just don't do that, or why are you following a meal plan? Like, come and enjoy this or whatever. I have a really good, solid group of people that surround me that really help with that side of things. I think, like what you mentioned before with social media, that has had such a big impact, because I think I'm still guilty for comparing myself to whatever's going on social media and whoever's on there, but I just find having such a strong support network can really, it makes such a difference to being able to stick to my goals and being able to keep going, and
Nice. A big thing I find is when I was doing my weight loss, for example, obviously dropping 90 kilos is no small feat for anyone, male or female or any age, but it's there would always be moments where you kind of felt like a little bit of an outcast because you were sticking to a good food plan, and you were eating cleaner foods that weren't loaded with sugar and additives and this and all that sort of stuff. And
you get the people that say, oh, I could never do that, or you're doing so good. And
how do you kind of so obviously you probably have heard that then, do you find any offense to it? Do you feel like, F you or whatever? Or is it just kind of like, oh no, this is me and this is what I do,
Well, as a teacher, the switch in my brain just goes, well, no, everyone can do it. It's a habit. It's all about building a habit. When you get to the point where you are coming to the gym consistently and you are eating right and you have a really good idea about nutrition, it's just, once you build that habit, like any habit, it feels weird when you don't do it. So
exactly.
It's just the amount of people I've just said, well, yes, it seems like it's hard and you think that you couldn't do it, but I've built the habit, and once you do that, it just feels like second nature.
Becomes the new norm, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, so I mean, that's fantastic. So we've obviously seen wins from the mental health side of things, the mindset side of things of just show up, get the work done. And now you're seeing the results because we've worked on the food side of things. So you obviously came to us with a big need for guidance with nutrition. Where did you feel you were falling down the most before having a couple of food chats with me?
Oh, snacking. I had this app at one point that kind of looked into the psychology of food, and I think what they called it is storm eating. So I would come home from a big day and just couldn't make a meal. I would just have a little bit of everything all over the place, bit of this, bit of that, and then now I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, wow, I was probably having the equivalent of 2 meals just in my snacks. And I was going to the gym and I had a good idea about what I was doing at the gym and a good knowledge of exercise, but I was never seeing any sort of progress or results, and that bothered me because it felt like, well, I can control this, I just need someone to push me, and I just need a bit of guidance, and I know quite a bit about food because I've done different courses and classes and things like that, but I think I just needed the push, and I needed a bit more than what I was doing.
I think a big thing you brought up there is that because you weren't getting the results because of the food side of things falling down a bit to the side, the training thing was all there, and I think that's a big message to get out to people, is that you can go to the gym 24 hours a day if you wanted to, like in a hypothetical world, and smash yourself senseless, and then try and just outrun the fork, so to speak. Because if the food side of things isn't, because that's the hard part. The food is the hard part. Like showing up to train, like people can be whipped into shape through a training session, no worries at all. They just need to get through the door. Like that's doable. Yeah, there'll be fear and all that sort of stuff, but after a couple of sessions, like you said, you either find if it's for you or you go and do something else, right? But when it's that food letting you down, I think a lot of people start to realize that they're no longer training at the gym, they're just exercising. And a lot of people go, but it's the same thing. I said, well, no, like training is where you have a target, you have set goals in mind, you know why the numbers are that way, you start to understand that, and that's where you go from being a beginner to an intermediate or an athlete level client, right? So seeing that progression, I think that was probably pretty cool for you. And it's only really been the last couple of weeks since we've really nailed in on the nutrition.
And it's made a huge difference as well. I feel it in every aspect. Everything feels better. I'm less bloated. I'm just feeling like I'm seeing results, and it actually it feels like it's all going well, whereas before it felt like I was all off balance and it wasn't quite And I think I've fixed kind of the toxic mindset of training so I can eat a bit more. I kind of had that going on. So I would go to the gym and think like, oh, I've had this and that, so I've got to go and train really hard and burn it all off. And I've definitely slipped out of that toxic mindset so quickly as well, which has been awesome.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, people want a result.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter what gym you go to, what Pilates studio you go to, yoga, whatever. People want a result. They either want to feel better, look better, fit their clothes better, whatever. Move better, hopefully, which would be cool. And again, if there's no result happening, it just, like I said, becomes exercise, and then exercise becomes a drag, and then it becomes a chore, and then all of a sudden you're like, I might as well just go and wash the dishes because this is a little bit more exciting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's a big message to get across to people, is that, you know, there has to be a point to what you're doing. It's the same as when we program exercises into the program, right? It's like, what's the point of that exercise, right? Is doing jumping jacks into a box jump, like bang, 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 or doing burpees into a box jump, is that beneficial to every single one of our members? Yeah, maybe our advanced guys, if they're looking for athletic performance. But like for Sally that wants to drop 20 kilos and she's never, you know, jumped, let alone trained in her life before, she doesn't need that, right? Like, and that's where you have to find that balance. And no, it's interesting to hear from I find it fascinating. I mean, I'm mid-30s now, but to hear from a younger person's perspective, because I didn't start training till I was 27. Right. So for me to hear what it's like at say 20, 22, all that sort of stuff, to hear what that's like, it's really cool to know that the younger generation, so to speak, hasn't completely lost the plot. They're not all lazy assholes and all that sort of stuff. It's like they just need guidance, right? And that's the thing. And I think a big thing with younger clients is that I found is that you guys just don't know it yet. And that's okay, right? And I've had to become aware of that, because there were times back when I was a young trainer going, well, how the hell do you not know this? Like, you know, you're 25 years old, or you're 22 years old, and it's like, well, they've just never actually been taught about that. Because then I looked at myself and I'm like, I never did human biology, I never did any of the human sciences, I always did physics and chem, and math. So it was like, as soon as I found out how I'd lost all my weight, I was like, oh, well, that's why that makes sense. Like, that's why eating more regular, smaller meals, smaller calorie sizes with more protein, all that sort of stuff, it all started to make sense. So,
I think it's the fight to keep up with what's actually real as well, because the amount of just crap that you see on social media with, you know, eat this and this will happen, and do these exercises and do that. And if you actually wrote down all the little fads that you tried, you'd realise you've actually gotten nowhere over a certain amount of time, because there's been no consistency. So coming here and doing the same program for 5 weeks and being able to see progress doing the same exercises and really strong exercises, not, you know, little things that are working tiny little muscles, the progress that you can have so quickly versus trying all of those little things on social media is just, And
that's a common problem is people get lost in social media because it's fragmented information, right? You're getting, you know, I know they've just increased the clip sizes from like, I think it's 60 seconds to 90 seconds, right? For stories, for example, and reels and things like that. So, but you got to remember, people are scrolling and they see, oh, only cheese is good. Okay, cool. Only cheese today, right? And then all of a sudden the next day they're like, oh, wine gives you cancer. Okay, never touching wine again. But apparently beer's got some healthy thing in it that's good for your gut health. Oh, okay, I'll have a beer then instead. So people are constantly being pulled because they see just this headline, and then all of a sudden, if they don't actually watch the whole thing or read the whole document, like they're just getting these fragments of information. Like the conversations I've had with people, as you can imagine, is just like, oh, I tried this and I tried this, but then this didn't give me a result, so I tried adding this and I took out this, and I'm just like, do you feel chaotic? Because I feel chaotic just listening to it, right? Like, and that's where I love getting people to start thinking about their nutrition and their training habits as KPIs, right? So key performance indicators. So everyone in a job, whether they're retail, whether they're a tradie, whether they're a teacher, whatever, you've all got daily tasks or daily KPIs that need to happen when you go to work, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the first probably 2-3 things you have to do every day?
Turn the computer on, deal with any IT issues that come up in that. Turning the lights on.
I'm so glad that's still a thing. IT issues.
It's just shocking. Gosh, I could sit here and talk about it for hours. But then, you know, pull my hair out over that. Greet the kids when they come in.
Because again, even something as little as greet the kids when they walk in the door, right? If you didn't do that, the snowball effect of not doing that sets up the whole day to just be rubbish, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you could imagine they'd be like, oh, Miss is actually here. Oh, okay, yeah, righto.
Yeah.
Whereas when you greet everyone, they're like, okay, cool, we're here for a reason, we're here for class, we're here for whatever.
Yeah.
Or
that
it's,
mental flick, oh, we're in school now.
Yeah. And that's where you start to breed discipline. It's like, cool, so we're here for a reason, this is what we're doing today. It's like if you rocked up without a lesson plan, you'd just be like, so today we're just going to nap for 6 hours and then I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
a picture of the sky.
yeah, exactly. And again, that's where you're now starting to see tracking your food as it's just a KPI to get done each day. That's right. Because when you don't write it down, you don't know what you're putting in your gob.
Yeah.
Right. Because
totally.
all of a sudden life gets in the way, just like how it used to before, and then snacking comes in, and then all of a sudden the wheels have come off. So
yeah. And I found I'm giving into temptation so much easier if I've not got a plan. Like anything that ends up in the staff room, anything that my EAs bring in, like I'm so much more likely to have it if I haven't already planned out everything for the day.
Yeah.
And I know actually I can't fit that in, or sometimes I can fit it in. It's just otherwise I'm just gonna have it, and it'll be mindless rather than actually knowing what it is and whether I can fit it in and how much damage it's going to do. And
that's the thing, because and then all of a sudden everything you've just mentioned is stress.
Yeah.
Right, because you're now stressing about food again. Whereas if you have to have a conversation about food now with anyone, let alone be me, do you find there's any stress now?
No.
It's just an easy conversation, right? Because it's like, it's food, it's fuel. I have certain amounts of this, and this because they do certain things in my system to allow for certain things to get done during the day, right?
And better things come out of that too.
Yeah.
Like the more simplified my diet is, the less bloated I feel, the better I can actually function. I'm getting enough carbs in, I'm not falling asleep during the day, like getting enough protein so I don't feel the need to snack. I know that is the effect of, it's just one of those effects of having a structured plan and having something to go by rather than just willy-nilly all over the place.
And that's a big thing that can then halt progress again, is stress, right? And it's like, because people come in and their first initial conversations is like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, cool, okay. So the fact that you don't know what you're doing, you're already stressing. Like your stress things that go on in your head and your body and all that sort of stuff, they're already alive and kicking. Cortisol levels are already starting to rise because I can hear it in your voice. So, you start to breathe a bit shorter and all this sort of stuff. So when you can, like, my ultimate goal with people when it comes to food is that I want every single client to be able to come in and just talk. Just talk openly about food. Yes, I had fucking 6 brownies on the weekend.
Yeah.
All right, slap on the wrist, why'd that happen?
Yeah.
Move on, right? Whereas most people, when they have to try it, it's like pulling teeth. It's like, oh, well, I might have had actually it was 9 beers because, we got on it, and then my favourite song came on at the pub, and then we went down to Murphy's and blah, blah, and it just went, all tits up from there. And essentially, you can see, now that you've got a bit of structure and routine, your daily KPIs, so to speak, it's a lot easier to manage that stress because you no longer see food as a stress. Yeah. And then if you do find that...
Simple. Yeah.
And it's not this big complex equation, it's not thousands of facts and figures and numbers, it's just food. Yeah. Right? And I think that's probably a big takeaway you've had, and I've seen personally in how you talk about food in the last couple of weeks, is you're just relaxed about food now. Yeah. And you're not relaxed to the point where it's like, well, I know I can just eat whatever I want. It's like you're just relaxed because you can just talk about food. You can follow your routine now because you know why it works, and you know why it needs to be that way if you want a certain outcome.
Yeah, and seeing results other than physical as well.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm dropping a bit of weight, but I just feel it in every aspect, like not falling asleep and not having a midday crash. All of that just made such a difference. Because
you used to struggle with that quite a bit. You were obviously getting iron testing, as most women do these days, because of iron absorption and all that sort of stuff, or iron deficiency. And I mean, like, do you find, how do you find training when it comes to, you've had a big day at work? So obviously, I think this week, you had a really full-on day. You came in, I think you mentioned you had a cry at school. Like, Did you feel worse after training, even though you'd had such a big energy sapping day? Like, how did you feel after that?
Not even a little bit worse.
Yeah.
I know that when I come and I train, that I will feel better. I always feel better. I don't think I've ever felt worse after a workout, but sometimes I do get home and I just get into bed, like full outfit from the day, don't even change, just get into bed. And then I think it's like this switch that goes off, and I just know that I've got to come and train, because that release that I get and the energy that comes out, that I can get all that tension out into a workout, that's also made a huge difference. And it's only 45 minutes in the day. Whereas before, with my old program, I was in there for well over an hour, and I would feel worse after one of those workouts, because I've gone in, I've been by myself, headphones on, like I'm not getting anything out.
You're all secluded, shut off. Yeah,
it's pretty much doing nothing. I might get a good workout in, and calories come up that I've burnt quite a few, and it looks good, but I actually didn't feel any better from it. I just probably more tired, if anything.
General thing I used to find, obviously working at a 24-hour gym before this, is the guys would come in. I know that they had super stressful jobs. They were literally transferring any negative energy that had happened during the day at work, whether it was stress or yelling at someone or whatever, and then they were putting the headphones on and they were just trapping it internally. Like, there was no escape. And then they go home and try to sleep, and I was like, well, of course they're not going to sleep well, because they're still thinking or still holding on to that negative rubbish that realistically, if they just vented to someone and gone, oh man, you wouldn't believe I had a Karen today. And like, we all joke about it, but it's healthy. It's healthy to get that out. And you can throw dumbbells and barbells around as much as you want, but if the bad stuff's still internal, like, it's not going anywhere unless you let it out. So, so I suppose probably from a physical point of view, like, what's been your biggest things you've noticed since adding routine to your training?
I definitely feel like I'm definitely looking leaner. I think I've built up pretty good muscle over just the years that I have trained, but I feel like I'm starting to actually see it. I feel like emotionally, that's obviously been a huge change. I can run for a lot longer, in the sense of I'm not crashing after being at work for a couple hours. I just feel like a really well-oiled machine, which is really good.
Sick. That's really cool. And I suppose now that you've got routine and structure to your training, instead of just exercising and going through the motions, like, you're able to set targets now, right?
Yep. And seeing with actually tracking our weight as well, like what we can lift and all of that, that is so cool to see just what you can do over a certain amount of time. And I've done that before, but just never done a consistent program. So never really seen the progress over like more than a couple weeks. So it's been really good.
Fantastic. All right, well, I'm all out of questions. I'm going to start talking about Kmart and stuff soon anyway, so that's fine. So I just want to say a massive thanks to Jules for coming in for today. Thank you very much, champion.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll get this story out onto the interwebs and be sharing your story of better. There's big things coming in your future, like hopefully some comp stuff, which will be sick down the line, and just some big goals as well. So keep an eye out for it, guys. She's training the house down every week. And if you're needing help with your training and nutrition, as always, hit me up on socials, hit me up on Facebook, whatever. Drop us a message in the comments below, and I'm always here to help with training, nutrition, mindset, all that sort of stuff. Just someone to chat to as well. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll be back soon with another episode. How you going? You were waiting to say that, weren't you?